in-person contact, hugs, high fives, energy. Energy is something that's a real thing. And you just hard to get it without being in human contact. So part of the agenda to cripple people and keep them depressed and controlled is separating them from other people. So that has to stop.
Thanks for listening. If you like the candid discussion and are seeking the truth behind the mainstream narrative, then please subscribe and share. Not only am I grateful, but those who seek the truth and wish to empower themselves and their family's health, freedoms, and future will also be grateful. Hey folks, we are live here today with, look at these two. Well, do I have to even say who they are? They are happy and they are healthy looking dudes. So I'm here with Dr. Rob Vasquez and Dr. Randall Johns, entrepreneurs, doctors, solopreneurs, even though they're together with this. They've got a vision that I want to share, and they've got a history that's worth hearing. So thanks, guys, for being here today.
Absolutely. Can I just say one thing? We're not actually like together. We're in the same place, but we are not together.
We told you, Doc, no relationship topics.
The first rule you guys gave me, and I broke it right out of the gate. You know, It's kind of like saying,
don't right in our face.
Don't spill the milk.
We're business partners. Wait, business partners.
That's it.
It's a key.
Collaborative.
That's all I actually meant. I guess I get a 2 for communication. Yeah. Thanks for being here, boys. I love it.
Yeah, we love it, man. Good to be here.
Okay, so you got your cool brand behind you guys. I love that, by the way. Happy Healthy Guys was started when?
Gosh, Happy Healthy Guys would have been started about, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Really pretty much coming up on, it was like, May, June?
Yeah, so we're coming up on
4 years.
Yeah, coming up on 5 years then, probably.
What do you mean?
Yeah, something like that.
4 or 5 years.
These guys also, just so you know, I'll have their information where their comedy club is down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. These guys are comedians as well, which you'll soon see. So you're getting a little taste of that. When's the next show, by the way?
Dude, it's always a show around here. Seriously.
Dude, we're here all week, baby.
So the first thing I want to talk about is when I met, we were just briefing here a moment ago offline, and I was just asking about, where these guys were with their health and when we met, and kind of like, wow, it was a couple of years ago. Turns out to be a few years ago now. So they were just getting their feet on the ground, but they were already rolling as a business, I understand. So 2018 is when I met Randall. And your story really hit me right out of the gate, and I could totally relate with how young you were and very successful practice you had, and yet the challenges you went through. And then what was most interesting and appreciative and inspiring was how you went about handling it. And I thought that was like giant. So could you tell our listeners which is the precursor to Happy Healthy Guys? And then Rob, then we get to share yours too, if you're willing.
Yeah.
Randall, tell us a little bit about your practice history, and then how you fell into the health situations you did and how you came out of that.
Yeah. So this really takes us back to the genesis of it all. So little bit of background about me: chiropractor, practiced for 8 years, ran a chiropractic business for 15. But at the 8-year mark, I really kind of blown through my life as us chiropractors, and whether you're a chiropractor or not, whatever profession you're in, you throw your heart and soul into it, and sometimes you can lose yourself. And I built a pretty massively large clinic, just burning the candle at both ends and just really not happy. I said I was. I could put on a good smile, and I was helping a lot of people, which was obviously, I loved that. But, sacrificing your own health, peace, and happiness to help others isn't really what I think God's probably called us to do. So so yeah, that's what happened. I think I got in over my head with my health and wasn't adapting. And so I got a cancer diagnosis. So I'm 36 years old. Looking at me, I looked healthy. I was playing the part. And you'd be the last guy, and Rob can tell you, you think I'm the last guy who would get sick, because Rob's been my best friend for 20 years. I mean, he knows me better than anybody. And late stage cancer diagnosis. So it spread from it was metastatic melanoma, spread into my lymphatics, my liver, my stomach, very aggressive. They gave me anywhere from 2 months to 2 years to live. So pretty sobering to hear that. Mm. And this is where the fun part began, though, because now there was a huge pattern interrupt in my life, and I needed one because I was not happy. I felt stagnant. I didn't feel like I was serving at the level I could serve at. So this is where you really learn what you believe, right? It's easy to say one thing, but it's really find out what you believe when you're thrown into the fire. And that was being thrown into the proverbial cancer fire. And what are you going to do? So as we know, our roots in chiropractic are very strong. We believe and know that the body's designed to heal, that God made it in perfection, that you create the right environment. There isn't anything the body can overcome. And so I was going to find out if that was really true or not. So I ended up hearing about a doctor in Spain, because I clearly, because they offered me here was a chemotherapy, radiation, drug trial, surgery, or hospice care. I'm like, that's the best medical care has to offer me at 36 years old. We'll hook you up to a morphine pump as you die. Great. No, thank you. And so the option to refuse that wasn't hard. But then what are you going to do? So I'd heard about a doctor in Spain, a medical doctor from Lebanon. A buddy of ours had taken his wife over to see this guy. His wife had Lyme's disease, and the medical system had left her for dead, and she got well. So we thought, hey, who knows? Maybe he could help us get well, or help me get well at the time. And he wasn't going to treat the cancer. So that's the big problem we get into with our own healthcare situation and healthcare in America is it's built around diagnosing and treating conditions. Whether you treat it with drugs or whether you even treat it naturally, you're still treating a condition that really doesn't exist, because health and disease are the same thing, the exact same thing. It's the body doing the right thing under the circumstances. I needed to change my circumstances. So I go to Spain, I get a 20-second consult. He goes, there's nothing I will do that will kill you. I'm like, well, thank God. He goes, I don't know if you're going to make it, but I'll do everything I can to help you. No need for theatrics. Are you ready to get started? Yep, I'm in. I didn't ask him what it was going to cost. I didn't need more research. I didn't ask him how long it was going to take. I found the guy who's going to help me get where I wanted to be. He brought the force to the matter. We bring the matter to the force. You need both. It was the perfect environment for me to heal, and went through a lot of different modalities and therapies and treatments to help my body adapt. Long story short, I'm not dead. Great clinical outcome, depending on who you talk to, but I would say most people would think that's a great outcome. And it only took about 2 to 3 months to fully recover and completely heal from a late stage cancer diagnosis, which is, of course, medically impossible, which we know that is the normal. It wasn't a miracle. It's really what the body can do when you create that environment. So knowing I was going to be coming back into my life, it was going to look a lot different. I wasn't going to go back into clinical practice the way I'd done it before. And I really wanted to get my story, my message, and share that with more people. So that's kind of how Happy Healthy began to get started, was coming out of that. A lot of the science that we use in our company, the testing, the nutritional protocols, the fasting, the things that we are doing now was born out of that. And in fact, Happy Healthy first started out as just strictly a weight loss company because when I'd gotten back from Spain, my brother had died from a heart attack at 27 years old. So just devastating, 100 pounds overweight. So, hey, let's help people with their weight. That's kind of how it started. And then it's evolved, obviously, into more than weight loss, but into a lifestyle brand. Of course, we launched SCT Oil, which was something that was born out of Spain in our time there as well. By the way, Rob went over there with me as my best friend to help take care of me chiropractically, to pray for me, to encourage me. I would have hated to have known my treatments were in Cleveland, Ohio, No offense, Cleveland, Ohio, but I was in Spain. So I would have hate to send in the text, hey man, I need you to come out here. Where are you? I'm Ohio. It's October. I'm praying for you.
Sucks to be you. I hope everything works out.
No, you're gonna be fine.
Right.
I'm thinking of you, bro. So I don't know how.
So Rob, you just up and left and went out and went to Spain to hang out for 3 months and support Randall.
Absolutely. I was so the way I got there actually was that I knew we had talked about it. He was going to Spain. We had talked about even me going out there, but at this point he was like a gray color stomach, liver sticking out. It wasn't great, but at the same time, like he was talking about with these really big chiropractic offices, hey, I still had to treat patients. So I needed to be there in the clinic. So I couldn't just jump on a plane and go to Spain. So I said, hey, you know what? If you really need me, call me. I'll get somebody to cover the practice. And I had some interns in the office at the time. And then I'll go out there if you really need me. And so we talked a couple times right when he got there. And you could tell he was scared to death because, I mean, we're taught to fear cancer here in the United States. And so I remember I was having dinner. I got a text message and it said, need you here stat? Or it was back then when we were doing, chiropractically, when somebody would come in on their second day and we were going over the report of findings and the seriousness of what was going on, that was called our day 2. He said, day 2 stat, get here. And so I was like, shit, I guess I got to go. And so I didn't even think twice about it. Got online, got a plane ticket, and was gone the next day to Spain. So I'm going down there and really actually stressed because I'm like, now I'm leaving the practice, all the patients that need to be adjusted, and just that whole thing. So I'm going down there, not knowing where I'm going, what hotel. He didn't give me really any information. I think I had the name of the hotel and that was it. So I got there and I get to the hotel and it's like 85 degrees outside. And it's hot. I'm in jeans, and I go to the front desk, and I'm like, "Yeah, I need Randall Johns' room." And they're like, "Well, we don't have you on the room. If you want to set your suitcases here, we have no idea where he's at. I don't know if he's in a hospital bed somewhere. I have no idea where this place is at. Nothing, right?" So I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna go grab something to eat." So I go out to eat, and I was so stressed out, I really couldn't even enjoy where I was because just to give you the setting of the way the hotel sits. On the southern coast of Spain in Marbella or Puerto Banús, it sits right on the ocean and it's absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. So I'm sitting having lunch outside at the pool, huge pool right there that overlooks the ocean, right? And I'm pissed because I left the practice. I'm like, everything's imploding. And so another buddy of ours that had gone down there, I see him walk around the corner, which I wasn't expecting. And he's got 2 beers in his hand and he's like, "Hey, come on, Randy's down here." And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? So I go down there only to see Randy laying on the beach in his European Speedo, which I'm not an advocate of. And he's laying on the beach and he looks healthier than I've seen him in years.
How long since you last saw him?
Since I last saw him, which was only which was not even a week before.
Not even a week.
Looked healthier than I had seen him in years. And I'm like, why did you tell me to get down here stat? So again, I'm pissed, right? I just left my life back home. And he's like, here's the deal. He goes, if I wouldn't have sent that text message to you to get down here stat, you would have stayed there, undergone the same stress and anxiety that I was having. Eventually, you'd have had cancer too. And the reality is at that time, I was also suffering with my own health challenges because I could barely walk. I had an injury before that to where I had so much inflammation in my lower back, herniated a disc, 11 millimeter herniation, and was having a hard time walking. And so he was right. I think it was the stress of not just the physical activity of bending over, adjusting thousands of people over the course of a month, but it was also the emotional stress that came with that, as being that business owner that was still, even though you own your own business as an entrepreneur, what I look back on, I'm like, you know what? I really wasn't a business owner. I was a business employee. I was an employee of my own business and the owner, which is even worse, right? Because everything falls on literally your shoulders or your back. And that, I believe, was 90% of what had happened with my lower back was that. So thank God that he had me go over there, because I was able to learn how to look at life completely differently, because in Europe, the way they do life is so much different than the way we do life here.
When it comes to infrared sauna, the technology at Therasage360.com is on the forefront of delivering results safely and effectively. The technology in Therasage 360 is not only affordable and portable, it allows you to access the benefits of infrared technology on any budget. For a 15% discount on all products on Therasage360.com, use code FSDW360. You'll be glad you did.
It's like for them, it's family is first. You know, they're eating at 10 o'clock at night, the whole entire family. You're out to eat there at 10, 11 o'clock at night, kids running around everywhere, and they're not stressed about having to go to work the next day. In fact, they're not even going into work until about 10 a.m., taking a nap in the middle of the day, and really just focused on that family time, which is why, you know, they go on holiday there for like 3 months. Right? Here in our country, for us to go on a vacation, that vacation may be, I don't know, a weekend. Up to that point, my vacations revolved around going to chiropractic seminars. Wherever that chiropractic seminar was where I was going to stay for maybe a day or two extra in Florida to get my vacation in, which is not healthy at all. So that's how I found him there in Spain. And then I had, because of not being able to walk, not being able to exercise, I literally ballooned and gained like 65 pounds almost overnight. And one of the things that we had learned from that doc in Spain is just that all chronic illness disease has this metabolic component. Even if you define health in certain circles, to define it as with metabolism being involved in that definition of health and being healthy. So I'm like, if he could get well from cancer, what if I went through those same protocols to be able to help me with my health? And I did, and ended up losing that 65 pounds almost overnight. Metabolism turned back on, inflammation gone. So I was the very first happy, healthy patient or client for what it is that we do today with one of our parts of our company called Happy Healthy Thin. And so that's how that all came about. So Happy Healthy was going before the Happy Healthy guys happened.
Yeah.
And so the Happy Healthy guys came along a few years later when we were like, you know, here's the thing, you know, our goal isn't to make everybody thin or skinny. Our mission is to be able to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be happy and healthy, not just physically, chemically, and emotionally as well. And so if we're going to teach people how to do that, how are we going to do that? And we were just messing around in my studio at the time, and we're like, all right, what are we going to call what it is that who it is that we're going to, you know, do this under? And we just looked at each other and we're like, all right, well, Happy Healthy, why don't we call us the Happy Healthy guys? And we just clicked, you know, send or whatever you do to do a Facebook Live at the time, did a Facebook Live and just talked about what we talk about every day as far as health goes. And the viewership went through the roof. So we're like, all right, I guess we're going to keep on doing this. And during that time, we didn't even have a product or anything like that to where we could be able to get that. But part of the protocol for what we did for him with cancer, with myself, was utilizing short chain fatty acids. We just didn't have a way to get short chain fatty acids here in the United States, because in Spain it's plentiful. And you can talk a little bit more about that as far as your protocols go. So we developed this thing called SCT Oil, which stands for short chain triglyceride. And that's our flagship product. And now we've got other SKUs and products that revolve around that SCT oil. But it was him going through what he went through in his journey with cancer, taking us to Spain to be able to get us all the way to here and what it is that we do. And so we've both since sold our chiropractic practices to be able to gain us the flexibility to be able to do this.
Yeah. We knew we weren't going to do it staying in a chiropractic business in the four walls, being employees of our own business, right? And that's that was the bigger fear than taking the step to just burn the bridge and walk away and know that something's greater is there, and that what we went through had real purpose and had real meaning. And So it feels good as we've seen things evolve, because to be honest, we've launched and failed multiple businesses, and I wish everything we touched turned to gold. It's not true. But I got to tell you, this happy, healthy thing, I think it's got some staying power, Wade.
How much more appropriate right now is it than it is right? It's amazing. I love the stories. I mean, to me, it touches my heart from the standpoint of knowing how young you guys both were, the friendship you had over the course, and just, that's a tough decision. You're 36. There's a lot of ego involved at 36. I mean, I'm 50 right now, and I'm killing my ego every day. My wife doesn't think I'm killing anything, but I know I'm killing it. And it's a constant, never-ending challenge. So I'm thinking 36, I was unstoppable, right? I mean, you couldn't tell me. And so that is brilliant and a huge step. That is talk about making you uncomfortable. You're walking away from a very successful security of income, but you realize the paradox of destruction. It's not that no one can say that's an easy decision to make, yet you made it and you just trusted.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way God works, as far as, making, the worst, most devastating thing in your life can be also your best and your greatest blessing.
Yeah. And
that's definitely been the case with this, because we could have never planned it like this. There's no way that we could have designed it this way. It's just the way, just allowing ourselves to be used by God to be able to do that. Because he was 36 and I was 38. If you would have asked me before that, I'd have told you that I probably would have died giving an Atlas adjustment, because somewhere along the way we had been trained up that way, which I look back and I'm like, that's the dumbest thing that I could have ever said. And I love chiropractic and the principles and the philosophy more than anything in the world. But the thought of being an employee or a slave to that type of way of doing things that we were doing, I couldn't even imagine that now.
Yeah. The worst days of our life became our best days. And that's how you have to see it. And it's hard to see it now. Looking back on it now, it's like, oh, that was easy. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't easy. It's tough. But that's one of the keys to success, is being decisive, right? In your heart, trust your gut. When you see it, you go for it. You don't look back. And that's always served us well. And that's how you actually are able to grow, because sometimes you do that and it doesn't work out per se, but it does work out because you win or you learn. We know that. So everything is an opportunity to get stronger, and you don't grow during success. You grow during adversity.
Totally.
You have to fail. You have to go for it. You have to take chances. Now, we take a lot more mitigated risks now. We're a lot smarter now. But
are we?
Well, we should be.
Arguably.
I would say we are. But at the end of the day, the principle of chiropractic shapes and defines everything that we do. That's what saved my life from cancer, because if I didn't know that my body was the greatest doctor, it was designed to be healthy, and that was the norm, then I would have done what most people do. But I'm like, no, it's either true or it's not. The same truth in the light, the same truth in the dark, or I'm full of crap. What is it? Believe it, go for it, don't look back. Faith, confidence, believe. That's how we live. That's how we do it. And that's served us well, not just in business, but in life across the board. Except relationships, we're not going to talk about that.
Done. I'm not falling for that. I'm good. I love it. And you guys do represent that. You represent, that's not a small thing to state that you're still living a philosophy that is obviously not just aligned. It is chiropractic philosophy that says you're self-healing and self-regulating. And if you didn't have that capacity, you may not have taken that risk. I mean, let's just look at the population. How willing are they, or maybe even able to get to Spain to do that? And now they can't get anywhere. I look back at my health challenge in 2019. Thank God it happened in 2019, because 2020 wouldn't have given me any options. Right.
Yeah.
And actually there was a chaos where I actually flew out to go get my surgery, which was very inconvenient, which was very, costly and time consuming. And yet I had to make a decision like you guys, but it wasn't Spain. I wish I'd have been able to go to Spain, but put on a banana hammock and lay on the beach.
Well, what's sad is though, is that you know how many people have reached out to us over the last decade, and we've told them what to do. We've given them the roadmap, and I would say about 1% actually do anything about it. And so that's really the difference. Knowledge doesn't change shit. It's taking that knowledge and putting legs to it and taking action. And that's what you have to do. And that's why, we've been able to do that, because when we get great advice, we surround ourselves with great people like a Dr. Wade and all the other influences in our life. That's valuable, but it's not valuable if you second guess it, you get pushback, or you find out how to make a better version of it. Because the reality is, man, you can learn so much from other people who've been there and done that. And we've always done a good job of that, I think, modeling after other great people who've been successful, learning off their mistakes. We know we're going to make our own. But I do really enjoy learning off other people's mistakes, especially when it costs them a lot of money. It just makes me smile. I like it because I'm not the only one who's lost money going for something. Millions. Yeah, exactly. The best education you'll get is how quickly can you lose $1 million? Then you went to school, right?
Totally.
Yeah, right. I mean, someone was just telling me about a conference they went to, and they're feeling all bitter that, and you guys have made, I'm sure, because you're at, everything you guys have done for your own continuing education to be successful in your practices and whatnot, and just ongoing, is the exposure to, the big heavy hitters. Do you want to be the smartest guy in the room, or do you want to be the dumbest guy and just learning? Well, this story was, and I'm paraphrasing, but he went into the seminar and thought, hey, he'd lost $50,000-$60,000 and he was just, killing himself because where he came from with his family, that was a big deal. And how could you do that? You're obviously a failure. In his head, he's speaking that language, until he gets in the room and he realizes that, they're asking the questions, who here's lost this much? Who here's lost that much? Now they're in multi-million dollars and there's hands going up and the guy's all of a sudden feeling great about himself. And I'm reminded by your story, and one of the shares that I want to give back to the listeners here today, and those who will care to follow through with some of this with you guys, which I hope to. I want to leave all your information, obviously, and where you can be reached and what you guys do, is that I hadn't known Rob yet. So I have to thank him indirectly, because he was part of the reason Randall was at this mastermind I was at in 2018 when I met Randall. And in first image, you see this good looking guy walk in, and, he's confident and he looks fit and he's in great health appearance. And yet I didn't know anything of his backstory. And how many of us have judged somebody like that and presumed to have, this kind of character? He looked successful. He had a confidence about him, but it wasn't arrogance. And so I'm just sharing that because there was a perception that I had even before I heard him speak. Then I heard him speak, and he was just an authentic, straight shooter who was extremely humble. And I say that with emphasis because it was shocking how humble Randall was at his age. He was younger than me, and he had gone through what he had. So I automatically was listening, and I was listening and hearing, and those two are not synonymous. So I had no idea how Randall would help me until I found out I needed help. And then I called him and he answered. And I said, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And he just very point blank was confident, poised. And he said, and I'm asking a young man for advice. And I had mentors my whole life. I always have mentors, right?
Yeah.
Randall and Rob live what they're preaching, live what they're sharing. And so what a great representation for that. And you helped me at a time when I needed it. And all you really did was just had words. You listened, you cared, you redirected me to God, and you said, go get it. You got everything it takes. You just got to, this is a wake-up call. And it was. And that was my blessing. It was absolutely my blessing. So I couldn't concur more with how you guys are taking lemons and just making super lemonade, not just lemonade, but like having a blast doing it.
Well, thank you for saying that, by the way. You definitely tell the story a lot better than I remember. I don't know that I did that much for you, but I appreciate that it meant that much, because ultimately, you were going to take action, and, humbling ourselves is a great thing. when you can be like, okay, maybe I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Maybe I don't know it all. What real knowledge happens once you know it all. It was funny. We were at one of our favorite restaurants of the day, Il Calabrese. And we were sitting there. We like to mastermind at really cool places with great food, great patios. That's the best place to mastermind. And we were at one of our favorite little Italian restaurants here in South Lake. And the owner is a good friend of ours. Guy's worth, God knows, I don't know, $300-500 million. He's built every irrigation pipeline and reservoir across North America, him and his family. Great Italian guy. In fact, his restaurant is just his hobby. He doesn't, make any money. The food quality is too good for what he charges. He can't make money. We're sitting there and Oscar walks in and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Well, we're working on our next $1 million idea." And he goes, "Next $1 million idea?" He goes, "I don't spend any time on something that doesn't make at least $50,000 to $100,000 a day." I'm like,
totally different mindset.
What are we thinking? We need to change our vernacular.
Which was like, I think, calculated out to about $86 million a year.
Yeah. So, but just stuff like that, it's just great being around great people and being humble and learning. And, just that one thing he said, like, just changed our mindset. Like, although we're not thinking we're going to make our next million, we're thinking we're going to make our 100 million. Even saying that was pretty significant. I'm like, we need to quit saying that. That's stupid. Right?
Are you aware of the fact that women of the household make 80% of the health decisions? In my clinical experience of 27 years, I see way too many women struggling with hormonal, glandular, and chronic low energy and fatigue syndromes. How well can you be expected to lead when your health and energy are not where you need it? Thyroid, adrenal, and autoimmune diseases are all too common, and the real causes are not being addressed with drugs. There are natural ways to restore balance and ultimately reclaim your feminine physiology. If you're ready to learn and get results to better empower your health, healing, and that of your family, then we think you'll love this journey of discovery and lasting results. Check out The Feminine Carnivore on Facebook and join our 3- and 5-day challenges to reset your body's healing potential. Well, and to your point, Randall, the words were just timely and appropriate. And I was at a point where it had a profound impact because it was the first step, which led to the second step, which led to and it was a mindset that I knew you whooped something worse. Yeah, I was lucky. I'm blessed with what I've experienced. So it was like, I'm a student of the game, man. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah. And the cool thing is now you get to be able to pass that forward and bless millions of other people's lives just because of, having that conversation with him about that. So we appreciate you for everything that you do, because you're not just sitting on your butt going, "Hey, you know what? Great. I got through that. And, now it's all about me." You're giving that out there as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. We have to be healthy, Dr. Wade, right? It's critical because just looking around now, you see it. All the propaganda that's been driven into our brain through all this ridiculous repetition, this agenda. And it's never been more important, number one, to educate yourself, to know what health is, and to put that into action. All right. The world definitely needs more happy, healthy, informed, educated people. It's natural selection. It is what it is. It's survival of the fittest. And most people are on the wrong side of that. So even when we were at lunch today, looking at all the people, because in Texas, there isn't a mandate. And by the way, they've never been able to make you wear a mask anyway. You can refuse me service. Just if I walked in without my shirt on, you can tell me you're not going to serve me food. But
when they saw your body, Randall, they'd still want to serve you.
No. Okay, no shoes on. They wouldn't want to serve me.
I'm going to let you guys have a moment here.
But it's crazy. Like, we're sitting there. There's no mandate.
I don't have a man crush on them. It's so funny because first of all, how old are you now? Both you guys. Rob, you were 38.
I'm
You're
49
42
now.
49?
49.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be 47 in May, here in a few weeks.
All right. So yeah, we're all pretty close there.
Yeah, we're all about the
Holy
same age.
crap. Yeah, that's the funny part, because I started martial arts about 9 months ago, and it's been phenomenal. It's been something. I came from a big family, so I never got to do it as a kid. I love it, but my parents were blue collar, and just never had enough to go around for that. So it was always pushed on the back burner. Well, then the situation came about. So right now, this whole part of what are you working on, right? And how are you improving? Well, for me, it's a great distraction to go just focus on something that actually builds me from the inside out. There's other ways to do it, but it's been a great distraction given these circumstances, right? So yeah, I was talking about hard bodies, Rob. I'm talking about Bruce Ree.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And meanwhile, you're doing well with in rehab, right? You're out. How many months ago was that? You said November?
Yeah, November. So I had two back surgeries last year, and it just goes back to even with the first one, coming from a chiropractic background, I'm like, all right, how in the world could this happen to me? But it still goes back to universal principles. There are limitations of matter. I don't care who it is that you are. If you put enough stress on your back, you rip a disc, it's 13 millimeters sitting right on top of your spinal cord. There's not a whole lot that you're going to be able to do. But here's what's really cool is that with the surgery that I had back in June, they did a laminotomy, which means that they didn't take the disc out. They just cut a little hole in the lamina, or the area around the nerve, so that it could be able to have more room and not have pressure on it, right? And so they cut it out, and within months, I was walking again, feeling great. And then I remember I'd gone to Idaho, went hiking. I also went to Wyoming, Montana, went to Yellowstone. Everything was great. I got back, and after being back for about a week, that was in October, all of a sudden I had pain shooting down my other leg, almost exactly the same. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So what had happened when they went and they did the MRI, I was afraid that maybe I had damaged that disc where they did the laminotomy, and maybe the whole entire thing shot out of there. And then the surgeon was wanting to fuse two segments together. I'm like, I definitely don't want that. They did the MRI, and here's something that was really cool, and I was blown away, even though we know this to be true, is once the pressure was taken off of that area through that laminotomy, that herniated disc that was herniated 13 millimeters was completely gone. Zero millimeter herniation, no more disc herniation inside there at that level. So I'm like, all right, so if that level looks clean, what's going on? Well, it was the level below it. So the level above that had gotten so strong, and I was doing so much work, PT rehab, and the area below it had already been bulging. What it did is it caused a herniation at the area right below it on the other side. Again, universal forces at work. And so innate intelligence in our body is always trying to fix that. But when there's a limitation of matter, it's like jump off a building and see what happens, right? Gravity is going to take over. It's a universal force. So did a laminotomy, same thing on the other side. And at this point now, since that surgery, I'm at about 90%, but it's really cool. Instead of actually weakening my faith in our philosophy that we've learned, it's actually strengthened it because of seeing what my body was able to do, and even having conversations with the surgeon about it, because he was even like, you know what, Rob, I'd never seen that happen before in 14 years of doing surgery, but I've never had anybody recover, much less from one surgery, but from a second one so quickly after it, and not need any medication for that. So I needed medication while I was in the hospital, believe me. And that was the first time, that I had taken meds in like almost 30 years for anything. And here's what I'll tell you is that shit works, right? And so I was like, that's some good stuff. But but he's like, you know what? He's like, I don't ever have this happen to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, anytime people come in for their follow-up visits, they always want more oxycodone or more Oxycontin or more any of that stuff. And you've actually, every time you come in, you tell me that you want less of that stuff and you don't need it anymore. What in the world is different? And what's different is not only our belief in our philosophy, as far as the body being able to heal. It just doesn't need any interference. It's actually that action being taken in alignment with that. You could say it all day long, but if you're not actually living that, you're not going to get the result. And so I definitely firmly believe that it was that principle, the philosophy, and walking that walk, not just talking the talk, that got me through that so much faster. And now I can be able to be a mouthpiece for people going through that same thing that don't know what to do or where to go, which is also a blessing to me, because I get to bless other people with that. So I wouldn't trade anything for the world. It sucks to be in that much pain. However, it's definitely been a blessing for sure.
You're an anomaly in society because of your healthcare philosophy and your body's ability and what you know it to do. You don't fit the mainstream model.
You don't, and people are looking for it, but they just don't see other people that are actually living that as well. Even being in the hospital, right? Whenever they would ask me what I wanted to eat off the hospital menu, I'm like, I'm not eating any of that crap. I'd have all my food was brought in for me, and I'd have my, the Whole Foods bag right next to me. And the cool thing is the nurses would always ask me, hey, what are you eating? What's this? And they would always come in every day to be able to literally sit there and just soak up everything that we know and everything that we do, because they know that model doesn't work either. So it was really an interesting thing to go through that. It was right in the middle of all the, all the COVID stuff that's been going on. And even on the floor, that I was on, there was I asked them, how many people are actually in this hospital that even have COVID, because they were saying, it's filling up all the hospitals. And the nurses are like, there's not even one person in here being treated for that. And, all the media would say exactly the opposite. And then when I would talk to them about even getting a vaccine for it, the nurses are like, heck no, I'm not doing that. You don't know what's in that stuff. And just listening to what it is that they were saying. So even though they're in that medical model, they don't want to be, and they know that there's something different, but there's a difference between going, okay, that's what those people over there do, but to actually bring that person right there in front of them, and they could actually see that there's a real living, breathing person that actually lives their life that way. That gives me permission to do that as well and take better care of my health. So it was really fun being in there from that aspect, because it was like every day they were coming in and asking questions.
Well stated. That's cool. I remember the nurse freaking out too when I didn't want the meds for any of my stuff. And thank God I had advocates there with me, my wife and a good friend who'd been through something similar. And they were just floored. And that was minimal. I was only in there overnight, and they promised it'd be, pretty much I just stay overnight and then do my thing. And then the next day I should be able to leave. And they couldn't figure out, how about the questionnaires when you guys, well, Randall, you never did, but in the mainstream medical model with that, right? You didn't consent to that, so you took a different route. But Rob, who's your physician? And how many times you get answered that? What do you mean you don't take any meds? It locks up their hard drive. They don't know. They can't even respond. Gotta have? What do you?
Totally. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense to them.
Yeah, what medications are you on? I'm not on any. No, you are. No.
There's zero reality to that.
So, but how often do you take Tylenol and Advil? We don't. We haven't had it in our system.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that? Exactly.
Yeah.
You weirdos. I'm right with you. I got a question for you. We didn't talk about it up front. And by the way, we're good on time. We're just wrapping up. I'd love for you guys to, first of all, let me ask the question and then share any of your parting thoughts. But we have our VaxCon coming up April 17th and 18th. That is a Dr. CE program, but we have, it's for doctors, staff, as well as the general public. And we have nearly 1,000, and we'll have, we're making room for a couple hundred more. I don't know if you guys do any traveling to represent your brand, but I'd love to invite you if you were. We do have some vendors there. Maybe that's something you don't do, and maybe it's that you just want to attend because it'd be great to see you guys. Plus, there's going to be high energy. The second one is we're having in May 15th, I'll get the date for sure, but it's basically a month later, is our Chiro First, Opioids Last, Rob, to your point. Chiro First, Opioids Last conference, and that's also a 12-hour weekend. And so we are pumped to be offering doctors' awareness and training about this. I think you'd be a good fit by what you just described, because that's the kind of lifestyle and program that people want to do. So if I could be a liaison to get you connected with some more docs up here, and put you in front of some more peeps, I'm happy to do that, because I love and appreciate what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So so to answer your question, as long as stuff like that fits into our schedules, we are happy. We were just even talking about how excited we are to start traveling again, bringing our message to different places, just because everything is opening back up for that. And so, if it works out with a schedule, absolutely. So definitely get us the information for it, and and we'll see if we can be able to make it happen.
You bet. I'll send you a link too. But anyways, I just thought it'd be, after hearing you guys both talk about it, it'd be great to see you. We got docs coming from out of state too, because they can do CE with it. So it's a great opportunity. As we all know, there's not been an opportunity to connect with folks over the last year very well. So docs are really looking forward to getting out, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you need that. You need that connection. And virtual is great, but there's nothing like in-person contact, hugs, high fives, energy. Energy is something that's a real thing. And you just hard to get it without being in human contact. So part of the agenda to cripple people and keep them depressed and controlled is separating them from other people. So that has to stop. That can't continue.
Well, it's devastating. I see it in my practice. I mean, people are drained. They're getting the life sucked out of them because of that. That's torture, actually.
Yeah, Dr. Rob is violating my social distance space.
Yeah, but you guys are doing it for structural reasons, because you're not an item, you're not a couple, and secondly,
thank you for recognizing that, Wade, and saying that. It's super uncomfortable right now. You freaking keep your hands up.
Well, my chair's like over here, so you get like, I don't know, like this right side of my.
Come on, hands above the waist, Randy.
You're doing great, because I was just helping you guys that you had to stay in the camera view, so I was giving you the benefit of the doubt.
I'm trying to like get back. Well, then like my head looks too big, so I have to move it to the back, and it's still.
Well, it's out of proportion. That's okay though.
True story. Well, his head is actually huge.
My nose.
Anytime we're on any kind of camera, we got to make sure that he's back a little further behind me, so it doesn't look like his head is like that much bigger than mine. Because I've got a
terrible at selfies because I'm in the front, and it just makes my whole head.
It's huge.
It's just weird. It's awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Well, I have those deformities, the Dick Van Dyke chin and all that. So anyway, I didn't have permission to use his name. Sorry. Do you guys have any wrapping parting thoughts that you want to share?
Just learn more about what it is that we do. We're always on a mission to help as many people as possible. The Happy Healthy Guys on Instagram and Facebook, and happyhealthycentral.com if you want to learn more about everything else that we're doing. So,
Yeah, we'd love to connect with more docs and help support their practices. We've had a big influence in the functional medicine world over the last several years with our SCT Oil integration, supporting those protocols. So we just want to connect, help, and if anybody wants to know more information about how to wholesale it, SCT, or get connected to it and what it is, let us know. It's been a big game changer for us personally, and it's impacted a lot of patients in a huge way, from gut health to diabetes reversal, cognitive decline. Obviously, it's a key piece in our weight loss metabolism protocols. And it tastes incredible. So SCT Oil, great product. We're super proud of it.
I still have your staff connection. Is that the same gal who reached out to me a while back?
Yeah, same
got healthy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I'll look into that too. There's a couple right out of the gate that I want to see if we can get some help. Plus I have a new book coming out that is going to be, because you guys cook with it.
Yeah.
That's a big part.
Absolutely.
So that's what I want to see. And maybe I can work some of that in. So that'd be cool. Awesome. Well, thanks. You guys look good. You sound good. I love that you're kicking some tail, and thanks so much for your time today. And Sharon, she's awesome too, but for you guys sharing, thanks guys for being here. And I will have all your information in there as well.
Absolutely. We appreciate you,
Love to, bro.
And let me know if there's anything else I can do for you guys.
Will do.
Likewise,
All right.
brother.
Thanks, brothers. Be good.
Okay.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There, you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share, so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice and their health freedom. Speaking up means you matter, so get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements or views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the advice of your medical doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Anderson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or products. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical condition, consult your licensed physician.